balanced, informative, and engaged
Action packed.
podcast here
Love
for
it.
everyone. Yeah, it's action packed today. We got a lot going on. Still continuing on with the shutdown on the domestic side of things. Digging into all of the domestic issues, and then obviously going to go into the global issues that are going on as well. So, jumping right on in, looking at domestic developments, the government shutdown and healthcare standoff that is currently going on at the moment. So, a White House memo indicates furloughed federal workers may not be entitled to back pay. So,
Crazy.
affecting, yeah, insane.
Working for free for the government. Imagine
Yeah,
that.
basically, and then not even to get that money back. Like you got to think about it. COVID individuals who were removed from their jobs by not receiving the vaccine, they were able to get back pay. But now he's saying that these federal workers may not be subject to those same uh, like clarifications that the COVID workers were, even though that whole COVID thing was due to uh, a legal um, ruling basically that allowed for those individuals that are fired from COVID to receive that money. But realistically, the 750, 100,000 employees will may not be getting back pay and also continuing to get checks. So this stems from a draft analysis by the Office of Budget Manager indicating really challenging the 2019 Government Employee Fair Treatment Act. So with government shutdowns, they have historically guaranteed back pay for furloughed workers, as seen in the 2018-2019 shutdown, which was for 35 days. And then the 2019 act signed by Trump in his first term explicitly requires retroactive pay. So he even signed the law that allowed for retroactive pay for these individuals during the shutdown, but now he's wanting to withhold it during the shutdown. So this threat could continue to escalate pressure on Democrats to concede on some of these funding metrics and mechanisms that the Republicans want, and go without those ACA extensions, potentially leading to legal challenges from unions and worsening economic strain, which they're looking at an estimated 400 million daily loss in pay by these workers.
A lot of money.
So, they're trying to use this to pressure the Democrats standing on this hill. But, there have been reports that, that Trump is trying to meet with Republicans and they're trying to figure out a way to actually implement these ACA extensions, which will affect many, many, many people. As we've said on the podcast, the difference for a family that's making $85,000 a year in Mike Johnson's district, the Speaker of the House, and a couple maybe,
What state does he
if I'm
represent?
not mistaken. Actually, I'm not too sure off the top of my head, honestly. I feel like he's like a
I'm gonna Google that quickly.
Carolina or a Southern state individual just from how he speaks and so forth. But just I thought so, something
Louisiana.
like that. Yeah. But
He looks
just in
so
his
sleazy.
district
I never would have
alone,
thought he'd be from Louisiana.
a couple making 82,000 a year in 2025, their premiums would be $541.92. If those ACA provisions are removed and not extended, that same couple the following year in 2026 will be paying $2,180.42 annually.
That's a lot.
Annually.
That's a lot.
Like, think about that. Like,
The
82K for a couple isn't that much when you think about the way that the economic trends have been going and how things have been coming so far out of reach for middle Americans. So just imagine having this, owning a home, having kids. Like, it's going to break your bank when you look at it. And
oh
the
yeah,
way that they're trying to, word this in a way that it's for DACA recipients and for illegal immigrants is an immoral argument because it's not. It's so
dishonest.
dishonest. It's literally for the individuals that are in the Republican and GOP districts, along with the Democrats, the Democratic voters within those Democratic cities as well. This is for all of Americans to keep this ACA tax credit in, and even we've seen now that Marjorie Taylor Greene endorses extending the ACA subsidies. So I really would like to see her become the face.
Her argument made me
What was
laugh.
the art?
I mean, just
Yeah, go into
the
it.
argument to paraphrase it is, I don't agree with how Obamacare, how the ACA was set up. I don't think it's a good idea, and I do think we should take another approach. Going to be foolish enough to stay if we, but I know that even though I don't like the ACA, I know how much it's in the system that if we were to repeal these subsidies, people's healthcare costs would skyrocket overnight.
Skyrocket.
She was like, I don't agree with the initial, like the general policy itself, but this is a fact of what'll happen. So I'm going to vote to continue the subsidies.
Right,
I was
exactly.
like,
And
that makes sense. That makes total sense.
oh, it makes so much sense. That leads to the we brought it up here. We brought it up before with Frank Underwood from House of Cards. Vote your conscience, vote your
It's a shame
district.
he
No
had to be
surprise.
played by Kevin Spacey.
No, yeah, it's god awful. I mean, the allegations and the convictions that happened with him and so forth. But what he
Yes,
states in that TV show, it does come true to a sense because she's doing exactly that.
yeah,
She's voting her conscience and she's voting her district. And realistically, she's not surprising anybody when you think about
yeah.
it. 'Cause she is
She's
someone that stands on this as she was standing so firmly with the Democrats for the Epstein files. So she's someone that's
yeah, she
going to stick
goes
up for her
against the
conscience
party leadership quite often.
quite often. And that's
I
good for her.
It is. I mean, the thing is, when you get a brand going against the party leadership among your constituents, that's a good thing. It's a really powerful place to be because it makes it that much harder for the leadership to threaten you with primary opponents and such. I mean, we even see it with Massey, the greatest example. He can't be primaried against the Republican because he'll win every time because his
Exactly.
constituents know who he is, know what he's fighting for, because he explains it well, talks about it well. Him and Marjorie are two of the most active people on like X, which is what I
Yeah, just
wanted
about.
to. Which is what I wanted to also roll up to say. I think it's very nice that they explain a lot of what they believe on X and other platforms.
You have to.
And I mean, we got so many of these politicians that just do like, Richie Torres, Jeffrey Schumer. The most you'll ever see them do is just like some generic shit or just, trying to be, throw like something sassy towards the Republicans. But you see these people on the other hand actually explaining in depth why they what vote the way they do, what they're gonna vote. And it makes you feel more tuned in. And why I say this all is because especially with all this Epstein stuff. I mean, the fact is that it's dangerous to go against the leadership, and Marjorie's doing a good job of it. So I got to applaud her for it. I'm glad she's doing it.
Very good, John. Yeah, she's leading the pack in that. And, with the Epstein situation and with her stance for these tax credits. As I was saying, I really do hope that once Trump is gone, she can really become maybe the face of that next phase of really what MAGA is about. Like, yes, it can be about those hot topic issues, immigration, taxes, and so forth. But you also have to keep that level of moral compass and level of duty to your constituents as well, which is what both Thomas Massey, I know he's not a MAGA individual, but Marjorie Taylor Greene does that so well. I would love to see her be the face of the MAGA movement, but I know that's not gonna happen. The MAGA movement will not let that be a thing, just from how often she's spoken out against Trump, even though that's how MAGA originally was. You speak out against what's wrong and you state what's right for the country, and we have not been seeing that lately from the president.
I mean, I'd argue that she's actually. This is the thing with politics. So much of it is about visuals. So she's very open about when she's supportive of what Trump does. I don't think she's like found herself in the camp like Massey has. Like Trump doesn't talk about Marjorie like he talks about Massey. Like
Oh no, I don't think
anytime,
he
like
really
he
can.
he'll publicly like tweet about Massey, being like, "Oh, what's this guy going on talking about Epstein still?" He's never tweeted about Marjorie like that to the best of my memory.
Yeah, I don't
I
think.
think she's found herself in a very good spot between like MAGA and also fighting for what she actually believes. Because the thing is, a lot of MAGA policy is just really cutting down on, well, true. I want to say not second term Trump MAGA, where it's Project 2025, more of a authoritative approach with the government,
Yeah,
but more of like that first term Trump, which a lot of his voters were looking for in the second term, but they didn't get. Them where he was a lot more. I mean, first term Trump didn't really do much, except for like past tax reform and a few other things.
yeah,
Honestly, they and I think that. that kind of MAGA is what I'm referencing when I was going to say that Marjorie does believe in MAGA ideals. You know, like more of that typical
Yeah.
conservative idea, like tax cuts, less federal government. You know, like stricter on crime, XYZ, things like that. And I think with how she's advocated herself, it's not in a position where she is on in the crossfire for these people who are trying to get rid of Republicans who are against Trump. You
Yeah.
know, like Miriam Adelson and those Jewish super donors haven't been throwing packs at her. They like they have been at Massey. She hasn't been getting nearly as much negative attention from that MAGA Zionist crowd that Massey gets. And you know, I do hope, I'm optimistic about this, that she will become like a face of a brand of conservatism post Trump, like a version of MAGA, for the
Yeah,
sole
like a new
reason
age
that
conservatism, I feel like.
for the very large reason. One, I think she's actually a good person. Yeah, I don't think
Mhm.
she's an evil woman. I don't think she's like Randy Fine. You know, Randy Fine's, I think, is
Yeah.
just a vicious, wicked person. Whereas I think Marjorie actually cares about the future of America and the future of
Hmm.
people. But two, just because I just, you know, that she's also anti-Israel, not, and for like very logical reasons too. It's not just her like going off with, you know, some stuff you'll see on X, but it's, hey, our country's suffering financially. This country literally has nuclear weapons. Why are we giving them military aid? And I'm like, yeah, why are we? Why are we? You know, I hope to see, you know, an isolationist, more of an isolationist approach is also, goodness, a more isolationist approach is also more of an actual traditional conservative ideal.
Yeah,
Like, we
definitely is.
don't need to be bothering with the world. You know, let's just either
Yeah.
stay out of it or stay neutral. And I do think that that's the angle we need to go with as a country. So I do hope to see that more. And I do think that she also believes that based off what she said. So that's why I'd like to see as many Americans as possible adopt that mentality that we do not need to be having our claws dug into every world affair. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think she's going to be like that level of new age conservatism, which are going to be individuals that care about those key core Republican conservative values, have a little bit of MAGA tied into that, but they're not going to be full on, MAGA with it. They're going to have their own brand on it and keep their own personal take on it, just as Marjorie Taylor Greene has done, and hopefully, reps will continue to hopefully follow in her footsteps as these years go on, realistically. And I
You
wonder if
want
she
the
does get challenged.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I think she'd win. You
No,
know,
yeah, I think
and
she would win too. Like, I think if Trump were to like put any challenger out against her and so forth, or say anything bad about her compared to Massey, I think that does more harm to Trump than anything to Marjorie Taylor Greene, because her voters and everyone, they're going to know she's on the right side of things from all this information that's been coming out, whether it's about the shutdown in the ACA, premiums being extended or cut, or the Epstein files as well.
yeah, and I mean that's a difficult thing as well, that they find themselves in the position of people who are trying to primary them, whether if Trump was trying to support a primary opponent against her,
Yeah.
because it would be, because it's a big example of, well, this woman's this person, whether it's Massey or Marjorie, clearly stands for conservative values. This is the conservative party, you know, and like it puts Massey and Marjorie in the spot where they can like highlight the specific reason why, like, oh, what's different about this candidate instead of me, and they're able to say, well, this is just more of an establishment swamp. This is the
Yeah.
deep kind of deep state person. You know, they want to get rid of me because I am voting for what's actually right, not always going with the leadership. And that's like a firebrand appearance that constituents like. You know, if you can, I mean, look at Bernie Sanders. You know, he doesn't always vote the Democratic Party. He's been very routinely
Yeah.
extreme in all the consideration. He's one of the most dutifully elected politicians, the most liked in the entire country,
Longest
and
independent to ever serve.
longest independent ever served. If you can maintain that image of, you know, you're someone who's actually fighting for the people, going against Washington, people love that.
Hmm. Yeah, no, without a doubt. Like, I think, as with Marjorie Taylor Greene, MAGA, I think AOC Bernie Newsom will be that new conglomerate ideal face of what the future Democratic Party is going to believe in and so forth. I don't think it's going to be as progressive, because you're going to have individuals like Newsom who are progressive in a sense, but understand that once you get too progressive, you really start to lose those key young demographic men populations, blue collar worker populations, and so forth. So he understands that. So it's going to be interesting to see what the camps are going to be in about, like, honestly, 2 to 3 years, realistically.
My guess would be really, I mean, I think AOC is going to go Senate. I don't think she'd like muster
Yeah,
up
yeah,
all the energy for a
she'll definitely
presidential
go
run.
Senate. Yeah,
Yeah, but I think like the next 10, 20 years, how the Democratic Party is going to shape up, I think it's going to be more. I have more like an independent mentality. I'd say it'd be a mixture of like Democrats like you and Democrats that are more progressive, honestly.
no, yeah, it's going to be a mixture of
But I
that.
think, yeah, honestly, I think it'd be a lot more progressives leaning into the mix compared to what it currently is, even
Yeah, no, I think more progressives are going to lean in instead of standing on their own footing as they have been, and
to get
the
some kind of votes
dichotomy.
involved
Yeah, there needs to be a unison between the two, just as there needs to be a unison between, the MAGA and the true conservatives of the Republican Party. Once those unisons happen, it's going to be interesting to see what candidates and what ideas, philosophies will flourish from that.
I mean, I also want to add that I think it's good that there's a lot of focus on healthcare at the moment, because I
Yes.
think if there's enough fire on that figure, that going into the 2020 elections, hopefully Medicare for all might actually be something that's seriously discussed. We see how much the repealing, something just like ACA and the subsidies would impact a lot of the country, both in Republican and Democrat districts, rural and urban states and cities. So it's
Yeah.
something that would really be felt by everybody, and the more that's attention that's put on it, of how out of hand it can get, and how out of hand it will be if these health insurance companies and more are allowed to just run amok, or there isn't a system put in place where where the government can support the people. I think it'll just the fact that all this attention is put on it. I do hope, I'm optimistic about it,
No,
that
I
it
really
will
think
actually,
so
because
too.
I mean, this is the thing, so much of the Democratic brand is about, I mean, for a long time, it's always been about Medicare for all. And then we've seen it just die down since Obama got the Affordable Care Act in place, really.
Yeah.
But, with how the financial status of Americans is getting tighter and tighter,
Hmm.
I mean, the economy is not getting in a better position for the most part. You see the
Oh
stock market
yeah.
go up, but more and more Americans are saying the economic policies being put in place are hurting them more than they're
You know,
benefiting them.
and even the outlook of the economy is worse as well. They're saying, yeah,
Yeah, just people just aren't optimistic about it. They're hunching down, saving money, and I mean the unemployment rate still hasn't been going up. But with the federal employee being furloughed, federal employees being furloughed, and now the talk of the back pay not being given once the economy does reopen up.
and
If
also
this goes on, what'd you say?
permanent fires as well. Don't forget
Yeah,
that
with
too.
permanent fires in the
Yeah.
places and plan as
Hmm.
well, that's going to be hundreds of thousands of people if the back pay is instated, going without a month of pay, 2 weeks of pay.
Oh yeah.
Do you know how difficult it is for so many people? If I went like a month without pay, I'd be in a position where I'd had to figure something out. You know
No,
what I
yeah. I
mean?
mean, geez, like a month to pay for people. It varies, and obviously from how much you make.
Especially if you have I'm a
Impact
single
is
man. Like I could
across the
figure
board,
it out. But if I had kids, if I had a wife, and I had to,
right?
pay insurance, pay housing, mortgage, pay auto loans, pay for food for the kids, I'd be stressed, because
Oh,
that's
without a doubt.
something that is not easy to handle.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not easy to handle at all. And kind of like what you were saying with healthcare and Medicare for all. There's actually a report yesterday I was reading from Harvard. It stated that more hospitals emergency rooms that were bought by private equity firms have had a higher death rate in their emergency rooms. So basically, private owned hospitals, they're owned by those mega huge private equity firms and so forth. Their death rates in their emergency rooms are drastically higher than your public state hospitals and things of that nature. So that should already
Makes
be
sense.
like you already the individual think it should be the other way around, that the government's going to have the worst side of the hospitals, the healthcare.
That's what the
So you said,
Republicans
yeah,
try to
that's
argue.
exactly, privatize it, makes it better, more innovation to go in through it and everything. What the reports are stating the complete opposite, and
Yeah.
probably what a lot of individuals were already thinking was going to happen, because once you mix private with healthcare, you start putting dollars over people. So it starts to get to a point where it's like, where's that moral ground at? And a very good TV show, if no one's ever watched it, is actually New Amsterdam. Mohammed, if you never watched it,
Never even heard of it, to be
great
honest.
TV show. It's basically kind of like a Grey's Anatomy type stuff, but it's a dude that's they used to what's the whatever the head of the hospital is called basically. So he's like a new individual that comes in. He's like, no, we're gonna help everyone that comes through that door, no matter the pay, no matter what. Where his former boss is like, no, like we are, a for-profit business here. Like you need to bring them in, shoot them up, and just put them right out. And those are the two sides of healthcare that Americans face, and that healthcare for all is going to permeate to a lot of Americans if we keep seeing things of this nature, and also further reports that these privately run hospitals or privately owned hospitals are not keeping up to their ethical standard of taking care of individuals and like actually putting in that level of effort.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna move on to the fun part, the economy. I mean, we kind of
Touched on it a little
had
bit.
a yeah, we touched on it a little bit, but I think we've been calling it on this. Like we were saying before that Trump was going to look at multiple stakes in various industries when he started with Nvidia. Now he's in the rare earth mineral
Oh
industry.
yeah,
Yeah, so
beautiful thing to get into when you want to see some gold and silver for the
exactly.
government.
Yep. So the administration, so all of the, looking at all the equity stakes. So the administration holds stake in Intel, which is at 10%, MP Materials, which is at 15%, Lithium Americas at 10%, and Trilogy Metals at 10% as well, and a golden share in U.S. Steel and floats defense contractor ideas as well. So this is turning into a new era of what is going on in
State
America.
capitalism,
No, it
baby.
really, it,
Just
it
a
really
step
is.
away from state socialism, which is a
Literally,
step away from state communism.
yeah. Like it's gonna
But it's
boost.
okay. It's state communism. It's not
Yeah,
communist
it's
communism. It's
no, no, no,
okay.
it's state enterprise. You gotta put the spin on
Can't
it.
use the C
State
word. Can't use the C word.
enterprise. It's state
Yeah.
enterprise. But this is things that he's doing. I don't think it's gonna play well in the long run in future presidents down the road, because you do get to those levels of communistic behaviors and actions. Because coupled with this and coupled with the Trump RX, those are two very communistic programs and values that most conservatives would not be for. But given it's turned into this light, they're having no issue with it. So they're thinking that it's going to boost domestic production, but raise nationalization concerns. Because could you even imagine if you know Democrat comes in the office and start doing the same thing, but now he's going after Republican led companies and so
Imagine if the
forth.
government started taking control of gun stores and manufacturers.
Exactly. Yep. That was just what I was
Ooh,
gonna say. Imagine
would
that
drive the Republicans fucking crazy.
going
Oh, I'm
after
sorry, I shouldn't
pharmaceutical,
curse.
going
Should
after
drive them bonkers.
yeah, pharmaceutical companies, like going after all of that. Like that would be insane. And he's really laying the groundwork for this. When I think Trilogy was announced 2 days ago, when today 2 days ago or yesterday, when the United States government was going to get that level of stake, the stock surged 260% post announcement.
Yeah, it's up right here. I gotta pull it
Yeah,
up.
see, what is it at now? I'm kind of curious.
So I'll just from the from last month. So before September, it started at $1.75. Now it's
Yeah.
at 6.60. So it's gone 4x, a little bit more than 4x. Actually, no, a little bit under 4x. Yeah, because 175 be 7. So hence because of the Trump announcement.
Yeah. So
Crazy, crazy.
yeah, it's
Imagine
crazy.
if you
So
had insider knowledge about
yeah,
that.
I
I'm
was just
sure
gonna
somebody
say,
did.
oh, easily someone definitely did for that, without a doubt. And then the United States is going forward with this level of state enterprise and taking in more stake from these companies, it's going to be interesting to see what other industries he gets into. He's in Nvidia, the chips, semiconductors, and now he's getting into rare earth minerals.
Do
So
you
it's going to be
know?
interesting how far can this go
Do you know
realistically?
how
That's going to
funny
be
it is
the
to me that
yeah.
if Nvidia wanted permission to sell to China, they got the Trump demanded a 15% cut for the government, and then Nvidia of chips sold, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, we'll do that." And now Nvidia can't sell to the government of China because they banned it. I wonder if that 15% still applies. Do you know how funny it would
Yeah,
be if
that
it
would be
did?
fun.
It
Yeah,
would
I
be
think kind
hilarious.
of still would. I feel like, but
Yeah.
yeah. If anything comes out from it, I would definitely would be very, very, very interested to read what's going on with that. But
The
you know,
but
as Mhm.
uh, what I want to add from my point of view is that I definitely think this is the wrong way to go about it. I think
Horrible.
that if you wanted to receive money from companies, especially these NASDAQ listed companies, just apply taxes on them.
Exactly.
And I mean, this is the thing: conservatives hate taxes for the most part, but they'll vote for them if they're not the ones introducing them, or if it's part of like an omnibus package. So, like for example, the TCJA Act that added well, for the most part, tax cuts. Tax cuts and Jobs Act that actually did cut mainly taxes, but there are a few moments where, like for example, it'll change the SALT deduction. So, like a big thing for Republicans is not increasing the SALT deduction because that's a
Yeah.
state and local tax. It basically means that the more state and local tax you pay, you can just deduct that off your gross income from your federal income return, so you don't have to pay that if you itemize your deductions.
Yep.
This is only applicable in blue high tax states like New York and California. Really, it doesn't really apply to any other state. Maybe sometimes like PA, Jersey, if you've got
Yeah, I was gonna
money.
say Jersey too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
PA, Jersey, if you've got money. But this is a thing that Republicans always argue. Just raising the SALT cap is just for the wealthy people in the Democratic states. But they in the TCJA they chose to increase the SALT cap. So it's just like they'll agree to these things if it's not realized really, if it's not the focus. It's a good political game. Like you scream one thing, show one thing, but then you do another. You see that very often in politics. And
Yeah.
I think that this idea of what they're doing right now is something that, as you said, would never fly under any with Republicans before. But the fact that it's
No.
Trump doing it, they're just thinking, "Oh, okay, don't still really agree with this, but I'm not going to speak out against the
You're
president of
like,
the
oh, it's
Republican
not that
Party."
bad. It's not that bad till it gets bad,
Yeah,
realistically.
he's like, this isn't as bad as I thought it would be. The world's not ending, even though the government's owning these companies. But to the point being is that I do think it's going to continue to expand. I'm not
Oh yeah.
excited to see how much further it goes, whether or not it's higher percentages of the stock being held by the government, or whether or not it's just a larger extension of multiple stocks being owned 10% and such. But I think that from a populist standpoint, like saying you wanted to have these companies pay their extra share because they make the most money in the country. There's taxes you can apply. The VAT tax, you can apply a tax on stock exchange trades. Bernie
Yeah.
has actually pitched out there, which I agree with.
Yep.
You can place a overall small fee percentage on a certain percent moves on the top stock market. Any stock move that's more than $1 million, the government gets a percentage of. Easy, right there. You exclude the normal people. Because the normal man is not buying $1 million of stock and then selling a few $1 million of stock, months, years later. That's people's retirement money right there, $1+ million.
Yeah, without a doubt. And
Yeah,
as he's coming out with all of these kind of out there policies that are putting people on edge, um, a lot of influencers are actually starting to distance themselves. I don't know if you've seen this. Theo Vaughn, Joe Rogan, Andrew Schultz,
I
they're
have,
cooling
I
on
have
Trump. They're taking their steps back, and I think the first one to really do it was actually Joe Rogan when the immigration
talking
raids were
about
going
ICE.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah, individuals going into the Home Depots, and I think it was then Andrew Schultz, and even now Theo Vaughn. So it's
they um,
interesting to see that they now understand kind of what were the fears of, well, I wouldn't say fears, I would say worries that a lot of people had for Trump's presidency, for him to come in and, for them to, basically almost wear a tattoo of him on their chest and, beat on it throughout every podcast that they have promoting him. It's like now they're starting to understand, now they're cooling off from it. It's like, well, we appreciate that, but you kind of got to stand on the side that you stood on, realistically. But
I mean,
I
I don't think you should. I think people should be allowed to admit I was wrong, but I also think that a lot of Trump one was a lot less extreme with his actions than Trump two.
yeah,
He's basically saying the same stuff for the most part, but he's actually doing a lot more. In his first term, he wasn't using ICE to violently arrest people illegally. He wasn't using them to deport legal citizens. He wasn't deporting people based off political speech. He wasn't doing any of that. So a lot of these people who weren't on the receiving end of his banter, you know what I mean? Just a lot of these normal white dudes, they didn't
You
have to do
know?
they weren't affected by what Trump said, you know what I mean? They were just like, oh, he's just talking shit because he's just the dude. They then really, like, when that came around of what his speech was saying for this entire time, even though it wasn't so aggressive nor there the first time with his actions, the second time he kept saying he was going to do it. And so it was only like a matter of, like, are you going to believe the guy, or are you going to just assume he's going to just keep only talking shit?
Yeah,
And I'm not going to just guess on a good whim that the president of the United States is just saying these aggressive, bad things because he just likes to talk shit. I don't care if he just likes to talk crap. I don't want my president to even suggest these things.
yeah.
So,
I
like, the
know, I'm
fact
sure.
that you guys, a lot of people see it and they're like, oh, well, he is more extreme. This isn't what I voted for. I'm like, I understand that this isn't what you got the first time when you voted for him,
But this is
but
kind
the
of this is kind
signs
of
were
what you ran on
definitely
the
there the second
science,
time.
and that's where like my statements were kind of coming from. It's like not only did they see, hear, watch, like during the election, what he was running on and so forth, they also amplified that message, gave acceptance of those messages that went to all of their individuals that are watching their podcasts and so forth. So not only did they expand those levels of messages, but now they're cooling off from it, which is and it's a bold thing to do. A lot of people don't do, but it's just people just need to understand. Like you have to look everything from a far out view. They were looking at it from a close up view. Oh, this is what he's saying. Oh, this is great. Now all this stuff. Like no, once policy is sometimes implemented, it's god awful compared to when it's actually talked
Just
about
talked
and
about. And you
drafted up.
and there's a lot of people that also fall for the propaganda. I mean,
Oh
I know
gosh, yeah,
people close to me who said Trump should win the Nobel Peace Prize. They're suggesting that, well, people have said Trump should win it. And I was like, so that doesn't mean anything. What's he done to deserve it? And they're counter like, what hasn't he done to deserve it? I'm like, dude, my counter is Obama won it and he was drone striking tens of thousands of people. The Nobel Peace Prize is, for one thing, just a show. For the second thing, he hasn't done, literally, he's made the situation in Ukraine and Palestine worse through his presence by just completely allowing it to happen
yeah,
and more. So a lot of people actually hear what's being said from them, or also B, on the other hand, they dislike the other side so much because they think they're so crazy. They think that it's a way of rationalizing it. They're like, oh man, Kamala was talking about, trans woman and women's sports,
yeah,
talking about, sex theory among children for should be in library books, going to drag shows, XYZ. They're like, when I see that, I think that's far crazier than the stuff that I hear Trump say. Which, like I said,
that's
if you're a
yeah,
normal dude, you hear the stuff Trump says fairly often as you grow as a man. It's
oh
just
yeah,
a lot of dudes just say that stuff, and it's a matter of these people just voted for what they're more comfortable with. But that's where what I said earlier is, since they weren't on the receiving end of a lot of this talk by Trump, they didn't really it didn't affect them how crazy it was.
no, it didn't at
Where
all.
and I do think that having these normal white guys turn against Trump in the sense of just coming out saying, "Hey, I was wrong. This isn't what I expected, and I expected more of Trump one." I think we should welcome it because everyone can be wrong.
Oh
I mean,
no, yeah,
I can be wrong.
definitely
I
welcome it.
can be very wrong, and it's good to see as well where the public sentiment is shifting, because it's as you see these people who have big audiences come out and talk against them, even if it doesn't sway their entire base, it'll sway a few people who like look up to these people in a sense of like,
Yeah,
well, they're an established figure, clearly you can't make it in life without having some kind of knowledge, skill, or like knack of trying to do well. I want to hear out what they have to say about this matter, especially
yeah, no,
Rogan. A lot of people
yeah,
actually like hearing what Rogan says. To be
no,
honest, I
yeah.
like what he says sometimes. Sometimes he just sounds like a normal dude I'd bump into a bar with and just completely disregard what they had to say the moment I left the bar. But
Yeah, no, no,
it's nice to
realistically,
have that
it's
conversation.
yeah, it's good to have that conversation. It's not no, it is very much appreciative that they're understanding, the levels of damage that the president is doing with his policies, and are now walking back all of their prior statements. It's going to be good for the Democrats on one point. Hopefully, that is something that they'll be able to pull from. But also on top of you're saying immigration was something that pulled them away from it. It's also the Epstein files,
Oh
and
yeah.
Trump is now discussing with the DOJ a possible pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell, and also mentions a Puff Daddy request apparently for
Puff
pardon
Daddy
as well. Yeah,
request.
apparently Diddy asked for a pardon as well. Apparently, but it's things like that that have turned individuals from what Trump was originally running on, because he's turned his back on a lot of the big issues besides really immigration,
Cutting
um,
down on
and
war.
even immigration is getting shaky.
Yeah.
But
So a lot of
just
his view, a lot of his people who followed him for immigration, like a lot of are like disappointed that it isn't as extreme enough, which
Yeah,
is
I mean, I think
surprising to me.
Obama's got numbers over him at this point. The
Yeah.
levels that Obama was able to do. He was the porter in chief, but quietly he was the porter in chief.
You know how many people I told to that Biden has deported more illegals than Trump, and they're like, you're lying, and then you show them the numbers, and they're like, this how this doesn't
Yeah,
make sense. I'm like, because it's so easy, because he just talks about it
he talks
every
about it. It's not
single
being done.
day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
like
I'm
dude, if
like,
Biden was up there like, we wrangled a few Mexicans today, threw them across the border. The MAGA would have been like, yeah, Joe Biden. That's what we're talking about. Biden on the
yeah,
next day. Got a truck of them. Not anymore in America. They'd be going crazy. You know what I mean? They'd be going crazy. It's just really a matter of what you say and how you say it. And we've talked about this so often. Democrats are just so bad
so
at
bad
that,
at
and
it.
Trump is
So
much better at it.
messaging is F plus plus plus. Like,
F minus plus
yeah, everything.
backwards subtracted by itself,
Right.
then
I
multiplied by
just don't.
zero.
I mean,
Non-existent.
so I was on X the other last night actually. I saw that they're posting this like talking about the to tie it to the shutdown a little bit.
Yeah.
The video of like a Gen Z. Well, I guess what's the youngest generation? Gen Z, I think, right?
I think there's people underneath us now,
Yeah, I
the
think.
kids. We're
I
the
forget what
youngest adult generation.
Yeah, I think it was well, whatever generation is under us, basically. Like now, Democrats
The
they're putting out
Tylenol
videos.
Americans. That's what they're called. They're called the Tylenol Americans.
No, that's pretty funny. But there's videos out there like on TikTok and so forth, and there's one that explains the shutdown situation, but it's using cats, literally. But it's got like million. It's got like almost like 1.8 million views and so forth. And like, there's another video that uses YN terms. That's what we. But
YN terms,
that's what
really?
we'll say. We'll use YN terms. I mean, yeah. I mean,
They had kids in ski masks wearing all black in the summer
no, I'm
too.
just
Like,
talking
what
about
is it?
like the certain like 6 7 and all that nonsense. Like that was the other video too. So it's like someone quote tweeted and said it's important that they're doing this to get those younger individuals, but it's also sad that this is
Oh,
how
right.
ridiculous we have to get to connect to the younger generation when it comes to like what's important issues, like what's really going on in the government outside of the Bernie and AOC video that resonated with us fully. Younger generations might not will probably see that and be like, yeah, I don't. That doesn't nothing for me. But
I mean,
these videos that use all these younger tricks and so forth for kind of things that I think are going to start pulling them in. But we'll see.
no, I think you sound like an unk right now. I think you sound like an old
No,
man
I mean,
saying that
definitely
saying
do.
we got to use Nah, this is okay. This is what I believe. I
Because I
believe
watched
if
the
you
videos and I was like, I don't. I was like, that does not resonate with me. I'm
doesn't
sorry.
really matter.
It's like
The
no.
thing is, we were the youngest group before, and when I was the youngest group, I didn't want to be treated like a child. You know what I mean? I wanted like even if I was dumber, couldn't think as much back then, couldn't think as clearly nor speak as well back
Yeah.
then. I didn't want to be treated like a child. You know what I mean? So when I'm talking about politics, if I don't like if I'm talking politics with my friends, it's usually just joking around, shooting around, or an actual like sit down like this if possible. So when I'm getting a message from regarding politics, I just want a clear cut. You can literally just speak to the screen for 25 seconds with captions just to tell me what you think. And that is a very effective form. I
Oh,
think
100%.
messaging. I think a lot of Democrats are really, really. I mean, we already know they've got terrible consultants. They had that one. I'm blanking on her name, Juliana, I think it is, Michelle, Julian, something like that. the one woman who was being paid by Democrats to basically be an online influencer, and she was like was playing a part in the high role of like getting the young men
Young
into
men, yeah. Was it the heavy set woman?
the big heavy set woman. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
like, dude,
I
this is
understand.
the last person I'd imagine that knows what men are interested in. You know what I mean? This is like the kind. If I saw this woman trying to talk to me about why I should vote Democrat, I think I'm glad I'm not voting Democrat with how she's portraying the messaging. That's not
Yeah,
like a slight on like how she looks or what she is, but just how she presents this messaging. It's like a sassy woman whose best friend is gay, that kind of messaging. Like the video that we were literally crap talking the other week of the pro-Israel influencers, where they're like, where they said, "Must the anti-Semites, you just hate Jews because you're not as successful.
yeah,
Now walk with me." I'm like, how does this attract to men? See, now even Israel's doing it now. Even Israel they
yeah. They
are
are
losing the pace of the messaging. Like, how does this at all get me on board as a young man or just as a man in general
right.
with
Just in
what you're
general.
trying to sell me? If you want to tell me something, just tell me direct. If you think I'm a bad
Yeah,
person, because if you think that I should vote Democrat, tell me why should I vote Democrat? Show me just clear stats and tell me why. I'm a man. I don't need puff and powder. I don't need any of this nonsense. I just like the facts. You know,
yeah.
there's a
I
reason why so
give
many
it
people like to throw
powder.
that around. Facts don't care about your feelings, and then ironically enough, people let their feelings get in the way of very often facts.
No, yeah,
But it just that's the thing what men like. You know what I mean? I could argue. You could. Someone could argue with me about how to appeal messaging to a woman. Yeah, I'm not a woman. I'll be open minded to that. But men are much more not simple minded, but straight focused in the sense of they wait for certain things. They hear certain things of what the messaging is saying. You
yeah,
know what I mean? If you're going to be talking, if you're going to give me a minute and a half long video about what's being done with the why this shutdown is wrong, I'm thinking one, why is this taking so long to elaborate on? You know, you get.
yeah. It should be like,
I hate to sound like a crackhead iPad kid, but if you can't explain something in 45 seconds or less, it makes me feel like you don't actually want either A, you're being purposefully vague about it.
yeah.
How often do we see that with politicians? You know
All
what I
the time.
mean? Like they never actually say they get an answer, ask the question, they give you like a 1 minute long answer, just sugarcoating and
Or
walking
they
around.
answer the question with a question, which
Yeah,
is
exactly.
honestly that's
Oh,
the best thing.
it's frustrating. You know, voters get fed up with that. I get fed up with that. People get fed up with that. You know, and it's just if you are able to tell me directly what you think or what you think is wrong or why I should vote for you, it makes it much simpler to come to the terms of why if I should or shouldn't. I didn't even consider voting, honestly, for Kamala just because that messaging wasn't there. You know what I mean? Like, at least with Biden, I voted Biden because I'll admit the messaging was, we're not Trump. And I fell for it that time. Do I regret voting
Build Back
Biden?
Better was like his slogan and self, which is like, like,
I was like, after we had Trump, I was like, you know what? I think just with what the two groups are telling to me, I think that I would prefer the idea of a more stable economy compared to all these changes. And I think that how Biden is saying that, he's an old man. I can see it. And then when it came to the 2024 elections, Kamala had what, 106 days? Isn't that the name of her book, 106
yeah,
days?
106 days, yeah.
Yeah, so I can't fault the woman for not being able to get directly to it. But in that 106 days, I just feel like, I was more seeing much more information and news on, literally how Kamala is stressing out about this, such a short turnaround to be a
Yeah.
candidate, than I was actually seeing Kamala talk about what she believes as a candidate. Whereas Trump, every single day, you know what I mean, he would just say some stuff, what he was thinking, what he believes, and that's the big difference maker.
Yeah, no, it is the big difference maker. And you know, Kamala was, as we've stated, she wasn't like that level of self awareness either. That for me didn't really
No.
resonate. But I mean, I did end up voting for her, even though I kind of was like, I feel like she is going to lose, but I still will cast my vote for her to see what happens. Because
You
rather,
voted in Jersey, right?
yeah, in Jersey, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm a Chase Oliver voter over here. I'm gonna try to get him on the podcast. Hopefully, reach out to him on Twitter or something. In
Oh
case
no,
you
yeah,
don't know, that's the Libertarian presidential candidate from 2024.
okay, sweet,
Yeah,
yeah, we'll try to get him on. That'd be great.
I mean, my basis for my vote was one very simple thing: no war. And I only trust the libertarians to deliver that. To be honest,
No, yeah, without a doubt, they would be the only one
the no
certainly
war
to choose to
candidacy
be that.
party. Yeah.
But they're the party that starts the wars. Democrats are the ones that end the wars.
I mean, Democrats are the ones that make them into military operations that never end. I mean, don't get me started. Clinton in Boston wasn't America in Boston. It could have been worse,
I mean,
but
what's
they
worse,
also,
Clinton in Bosnia or
if they didn't poke their noses in it in general, the people of Boston were fighting for the land back.
what about
But
Iran?
that's an
I mean,
that,
Reagan, Iran Contra. Come
yeah, Iran Contra with Reagan. I mean, what did Carter get into any military operations?
on. I don't think so.
I don't think
Because he
so.
was only one term. He was only on one term, so I don't think so.
Yeah.
Nixon, I'm not too sure of.
Bush
JFK,
nine, but I was about to say
Reagan,
Bush 9/11. I do not think Bush did 9/11. They but I was gonna say Bush Iraq, Bush Afghanistan.
yeah.
Those two big ones. They
Well, Bush Senior, Georgia.
Georgia,
Uh,
United States went to Georgia.
I think so. Look it up. I'm pretty sure. I'm like
What?
99% sure. I think the United States went to Georgia during Bush Senior. This is pulling back in those high school history class files right now. Could be wrong though. But in continuing on with the
Oh,
podcast,
wait, so yeah, we can use that to segue into the next section
yeah,
about
continue on with the podcast. Something that's kind of interesting, where we were talking about the um, Ghislaine Maxwell's situation and so forth. Trump trying to really get that pardon, and really with the whole Epstein side of things, there's been a very huge downturn, as me and Muhammad have been speaking about APAC, and also you're now having progressive challengers and various PACs stating that we are not going to endorse candidates if they are accepting APAC money. So that is the huge shift that you're really starting to see. So progressive primary challengers are targeting Democrats, pledging no APAC money amid failing popularity of pro-Israel groups. So
good.
yeah, APAC spent heavily in 2022 and 2024
They
primaries.
spent 13 million on Wesley Bell to unseat Cory Bush.
Yeah,
13
13
million.
million. 2.3 million for Rep Shiri Tarander. So it's like they're just giving millions out to these people. So it's honestly great to see that progressives, I hope conservatives do this too. They stand up and they don't take money from these PACs, because really that's how they lose their power.
Yeah, it's the
Mostly that's
money.
how you like stop them, but that's also how they get dangerous as
Yeah,
well.
that's the big question. Is like normal Americans clearly can't amass financial means like these people can because they have so much more of the money than we do. But we are the people though. Literally, so like that's how we use our power is just with the sheer influence of we're not gonna vote for you if you do this or believe in this. And I've read a report, it was from the Wall Street Journal, I believe, but it was just among House Democrats who were saying that APAC and other Israel groups, just like similar to what you were saying, are becoming a toxic presence.
Yeah.
Simply because if you're caught with them, it's not good look for you. It's a very deadly look in the current democratic political outlook to be affiliated with these Israeli group people.
Yeah, it's going to be they're losing all of their confidence, and the fact that they can try to get more representatives over to their side, because that's going to be the best part of it. When they start sending out, hey, well, we would happily give you money for your upcoming campaign or something, individuals are just like, no, I'm not taking your money. I'm not taking that genocide blood money that is technically our money when you think about it, because it's our taxpayer dollars. It's going to be funding it, so we're just getting our own money back. So it's I'm glad to see it. I hope it happens more often, and I hope it happens in larger volume across all parties, from all levels of races, from you know local, city, state, and the national level governorship. Like, I just want to keep seeing the dilution and the loosening of control from Israel on the United States.
I do think that also with the direction the Conservative Party is going, that
Yep.
we will. Honestly, I'd imagine that it's going to occur over the period where after 2028, after Trump
Hmm.
leaves, after the Democrats take control, because just like we're seeing right now with the Democrats, this big push against Israel went from very small within the party, like pre 2024, it was
Hmm.
about 40% supported Palestine over Israel. And now we're at the point where not only is it 75% of the Democrats don't support Palestine over Israel, it's that they think Israel is an evil country. They think they're committing war
Yeah.
crimes. They don't want to support Israel at all. They want to cut all financial aid off to Israel. It's just a matter of how quickly it's gotten to so much more of an extreme thought from what would have been radical in America what would have
Oh
been
gosh.
the BDS movement was radical in the government's
Radical.
eyes. Radical.
Yeah.
And I mean, with these ideas were fairly radical in government politics just 3-5 years ago, honestly. Well, it's
Yeah.
just the direction that's been happening with the Democratic Party being completely lost with no direction. This
Literally.
has just been a thing that has been easily able to gain that power stance as a very important issue to vote on. And I think that the Republicans are going to go through something similar once Trump leaves and they lose 2028. Hopefully, I mean, most likely
Yeah.
thing. Just with the direction of politics in the country. I think they're going to have that moment where after they lose control over government, where the younger Republicans will start to take more power and influence with their ideals and beliefs. Because the government's and the
Yeah.
Republican Party is going to do what the Democrats are doing now. They're going to be looking for that future outlook, how they can really start to plan the roots for the next presidential election or midterms even.
Yeah.
And I think that, especially with what we're seeing with Charlie Kirk, I mean, I don't know if you saw the news today, but Candace released
Hmm.
screenshots of a conversation of a group
Yeah.
chat Charlie was in.
I was gonna touch on
Yeah.
that. Good,
And
good
this
stuff.
was 2 days before Kirk got murdered.
48 hours, people. If
Two, two,
you can go ahead and read them if you want to read them. We'll
oh,
touch on this and
you
we'll
have
touch
the
on
whole
the
text? I
I
didn't
have
even
the
see them.
I have the yeah, I got it. 1 second.
Honestly, I didn't even see them in the notes.
Yeah, I have hold on.
So while you look for it, I'll just say what it is. So in the text that Candace revealed, it was a group chat Charlie was in with a few people who worked within 200 Point USA, fairly high up. There's about 6 of them, or just close to Charlie.
So I have it right.
And
I got some of it right now.
all right, you can like say I'll give you the cue in a second. So the before MJ says what was said, they just know that Charlie's best friend, who was in the group chat, did confirm that these texts are real. So this isn't
Yes, it
just
was
Candace making
authenticated.
fake
Yes.
texts. Charlie's best friend confirmed the texts are real, and I think this is just a good look into the young Republicans' minds. Because this is the thing: Charlie was the moderate Republican, really. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Among the Christians, and then you get the Nick Fuentes, which is the further right. Nick Fuentes is in that further right, absolutely hate Israel and Judaism. But then you got people like Kirk who have no problem with Judaism at all, but they have a growing problem with Israel due to their control of American politics, their cancel culture politics, their cancel culture control, and more. And MJ, why don't you go ahead and say what the texts are?
Okay, so starting off, so we have I've definitely seen more of these texts, but we have Charlie Kirk, 48 hours from what was the date that he was assassinated on again? I forget.
No,
No, September.
September 10th, the day
Yeah,
before
September 10th.
9/11. Yeah.
So you got 349. Charlie Kirk just lost another Jewish donor, 2 million a year because we won't cancel Tucker. I'm thinking of inviting Candace. Then he says, then something is blacked out, and then you just see written out by Charlie. And then Charlie Kirk says, Jewish donors play into all the stereotypes. I cannot and will not be bullied like this, leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. And those texts go further on to say, like I have Candace O, I have a video of Candace Owen talking about it, but they go further, even him saying that he was going to look to bring on even Candace Owens, and the individual that he was talking back and forth with was saying that's a bad idea and going to alienate a lot of other individuals. So the fact that they are authenticated, that these text messages are real, and he was on the verge of speaking out against Israel, he was probably the one of the most on like a podcasting standpoint, the most loud voices on Israel, and was a big stance, was a staunch supporter of Israel in all regards. So the fact that he was even going to switch, just given what Israel's doing in Gaza, like even when he met with Ben Shapiro, and he was asking him, when are we going to get the truth about what's going on with Gaza and is it a genocide and so forth.
Yeah.
That was even a few days before his assassination as well. So it's like
Yeah.
all these things that are coming out are not in the favor of Israel, and it's only going to continue to bring down that um, loss of support for Israel that Americans have, which is the best thing that's going to be for this country.
I agree.
Realistically,
We need to. They're like a parasite.
we don't need Israel for anything. They need us for every single living thing that they breathe, eat, their missiles and so forth. It's insane.
I
And
mean, the
actually,
thing. Go
no,
ahead.
go ahead. I was gonna say actually, I was watching a TikTok, and I wish I could like confirm this, but they were saying that the Israelis, like defense IDF individuals, they try to get a lot of the U.S. Fighter technology, basically, because like we give them our the fighter jets and so forth, but we don't give them I forget what's the the Raptor jet, basically. Whatever that Raptor jet is called, we give them like a variation of it, but we don't give them the
The
exact
top of the
same thing
line
that
one.
we make. So we give them like some, not subpar version, but not as great to what we make. But the dude was
Yeah.
stating that do you have the name of it?
So I was gonna say I was pretty sure the F-35 is the most advanced, but yeah. So
Yeah,
the
yeah,
two
yeah.
most advanced ones are the F-35 Lightning, which they don't give to anybody, I don't believe, and the F-22 Raptor.
Yeah, so they give them like not top of the line versions, but he said he's coming to accounts where you have IDF soldiers actually working their ways and try to get into these contracting industries and departments so they can try to figure out how to get that information and apply it to over in Israel,
I
even
mean,
though they're
dude,
just
all the
taking our
time.
technology. They just want to take our stuff realistically from our money, our research, our technology. You're seeing like it's ridiculous.
Thing is, I absolutely can see a future where Israelis, like dual, like people who have Israeli citizenship living in America, are considered national security threats.
Oh, without a
They,
doubt.
because it's the government covers up a lot for Israel right now,
I
a
said, didn't
lot,
he just say
enough.
that Iran was going to nuke the United States somehow?
Yeah, he said that they're making nukes that can reach the United States. I'm like, no,
Everyone
they're
on
not.
Twitter was like, well, I guess Israel's going to bomb the United States to drag us into a war with Iran, huh? And that's like
Possibly
the fact that people come to that kind of thought process. That's terrible for us to
Israel.
continue to be supporting them. Exactly. And even for our representatives to be giving their whole full fledged support for them makes them even worse. And I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you going to say?
No, you're fine. You're fine. And I was gonna say that because I mean we've seen it. Israel has killed Americans before. If any other country killed Americans, it would be a giant deal. But when Israel kills Americans, it doesn't matter. There are multiple Americans in Israeli custody because they're Palestinian. They are have not been getting any help from the United States government. Imagine if any government in the world held U.S. citizens and detained them and held them in custody with no without allowing them to be given free with while giving them like cruel and inhumane conditions and
Yeah.
possibly torturing them, which is most likely what they're also doing. None of this would have ever flown by any other country ever in the entire world in the
No,
history of the United
no, not
States.
at all. And like, I
But
don't know if
because
you,
it's Israel, we allow this
yeah.
to happen. And a very good example of this is the USS Liberty, where we had
Hmm.
159, I believe it was, servicemen wounded and 52, 51 killed,
Yeah.
meaning Israel nearly destroyed one of our ships. Israel killed 50 plus Americans, wounded 150 plus, and then they literally just said, "Oh, sorry, we didn't know it was an American ship." It was flying an American flag. It was giving off American signals. It was an American ship, and they knew it. And they bombed them because they thought the Americans were going to get in their way of their mission to bomb Egypt at the time. And it's ridiculous to me how we even allow any of this to happen. So that's what a lot of these Republicans are seeing. The thing is, they don't really care about what happens in the Middle East, because
No.
they're not sympathetic to people who they don't know. They're more sympathetic to their countrymen, which is understandable. There's
Understandable.
only so much you can control, only so much you can do for the people you do care about. So they think, well, what do I want? I want this country to do well. It's as simple as that. And a lot of people are now seeing, especially when you lose the Republicans, that's why I continue to highlight them, because that's the last batch of support Israel has, and that's their main batch of support is the
Yeah.
Christian Republicans. So as we saw with Kirk, they're scared. I don't think this is like a hit ordered by Netanyahu. No, I mean, definitely not. But I do think one, he knows about it. I think that this is probably. I mean, Kirk's security force the day he died was an Israeli security force. So I think that
Yeah.
one, he knows something about it. Two, I think that I don't think he had to like give the okay on it. But I do think that he's aware of it, and I do think that it was done by an for Israeli motivation. I think the reason why the everything has gone so suspiciously is because of that reason.
Oh
They
yeah.
said that his neck managed to stop a
Stop.
rifle round from exiting. That's not humanly possible.
Nope.
They he didn't Charlie Kirk didn't get an autopsy. That's required by law in Utah to get an
Yep.
autopsy. They didn't give him an
Mhm.
autopsy. He wasn't rushed to a hospital. He was taken into a van where he was just pronounced dead. There's a lot of suspicious things,
A lot of
and
suspicious things.
I think that they've done a really because they've found themselves in a bad spot where they're losing the support they need the most. And I think that we'll hopefully in 10 years time be able to talk about this conversation and the situation in post haste in like post terminology,
Yeah,
because
I
it
would
would
think so.
be nice to be done with the parasite by then.
No, it would be amazing to be done with Israel by then, and hopefully we are able to have that conversation 10 years from now, still under an American flag and not an Israeli flag.
Yeah, right.
But
I'll
yeah,
say,
like
talking about Israeli flags, it blows my mind congressmen are allowed to fly a country
yeah,
in Congress that isn't American.
yeah,
Blows my mind. And that's the first thing I do. I'm like, Democrat or Republican, you've got an Israel flag in front of your office, in your office,
um,
around your office. You're
treason,
gone. Special
treason.
elections held right away. You're gone. You can't run.
Yeah,
Treason. Yeah, you're going to be tried for
it's got to
treason.
be treason.
Yeah,
And just,
right.
and I kind of want to stick on with Israel. Um, going to go into the global affairs a little bit, but before I touch there, just as we've been talking about with the president and kind of his Supreme Court and legal battles that have been going on. He's was going after Comey, and his Durham was actually stating that they don't have a case for charges against Comey. So basically, his whole vendetta against what he wants to do to Comey, try to arrest him, is not going to end up happening. This is all from the probe in Russia and so forth. But what
Speaking
comes,
of all this,
yeah.
all I can remember is how like 2 months ago him and Pam Bondi like tweeting about how they have a case
Oh
against
yeah, they got a
Obama.
case against him, and then Durham's just like, "What are you guys doing? There's
Yeah,
nothing here." And then, what's the quiet part that hasn't been really talked about, but it's not talked about on X and so forth. But I don't think it's been picked up on a mainstream media. Jack Smith, tracked GOP's senators' calls during the January 6th probe. So the FBI was basically under the President Biden, going through and screening and recording, surveilling. I think it was 8 GOP members, I believe.
Holly, Graham,
Yeah.
Scott, I think as well, and then 5 others. I just want to add one quick thing. Do you know if Biden asked them to do the FBI to do this, or if this was just done by the FBI on their own accord? Because that's two very
That's two
big
different
different.
very things. Yes, 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 yes. I don't know. I would
Honestly, I gotta look at the
actually,
facts behind that.
yeah, I would have to look at the facts. It's for some reason this sounds familiar for some reason, even though it silently happened. But I'm like, I feel like this came up at some point throughout the whole RussiaGate talk and so forth. Yeah, I'm not too sure how that was called, but it's just important to know. Looking at one side of Biden, he if Biden was the one to basically state to Jack Smith to go ahead and do these surveillances on these 8 congressmen, well, representatives of Congress, then that is a wrong of the Biden administration to do that. And on the same token, it's bad for the Trump administration to try to go after the political opponents who there are no case about. So the real messaging here is that it doesn't matter Republican or Democrat. It's about the individual that's in office who's going to, whether it's weaponize the department or use the department for illegal ventures or for illegal cases. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. Either party will do it. It's about the individual who's going to be able to lead and not have this level of vendetta or this level of paranoia to go after these 8 senators as well as Trump going after Comey as well, who was helping him throughout everything prior to him getting elected, which is kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah.
And then
It's funny how quick things can change with politics.
So
It reminds me of those pictures of it reminds me of like Trump going against Hillary so much, but then the pictures of them together, before they're like
so
political opponents, and also even one like during the race. It's interesting.
it's so interesting how it happens. And tying back to the international peace with Israel, Hamas has accepted parts of Trump's Gaza plan. And actually, it was funny enough, Trump was actually saying about Netanyahu that he's like, "Why are you so negative?" Basically, he's like, "Take this. This is a win." But he's
Yeah.
like, "Why are you being so negative on what's going on? Let's just take this win and let's just go with it. Like, let's get the war done." And I don't know if you saw this video of a bird's eye view video of Gaza
It's
right
horrible.
now. Oh my gosh, it is god awful. It's
Yeah.
literally just like literally looks like someone just like started building a civilization. It's just roads and it's just dirt construction before they get started up. It's literally all rubble and nothing. It's literally nothing. These
I mean,
people have after a
I
beautiful country that it looked like, honestly.
I think that, well, honestly, I want to say I know this, but I'm confident that anything Israel thinks it's won during this is completely overshadowed by what it's
Oh
lost, which
yeah.
is the international support. Like
Hmm.
the Muslim countries will have much less pushback if they were to ever do anything against Israel now.
Well, think about
Much
the
less
walkout
pushback.
when at the UN speech. That was the most defining moment. That's when he
Yeah.
went really hard offensively and said, we need to go to TikTok and started doing all these things. Like it's like
Imagine any other country doing that, speaking
right.
in America about. Imagine if Xi Jinping came to America, speaking with Chinese Americans, was talking about how we need to control the country's social media so they support us.
Yeah,
Any other
instant.
country, and it would be a massive story because it's Israel. It's okay. Because it's
Yeah,
Israel, it's okay. They can control our media. They can work with the Jewish super billionaires who will rather see Israel succeed than see America thrive. Well, they'll work with the traders because that's okay with them, and that's okay with America because our politicians are bought and paid for.
yeah, literally bought and paid for. And
Frustrating.
on the last international piece here, we have Venezuela outreach has been completely halted. So Trump ends diplomatic talks per New York Times following more drug related strikes. So he's hitting more and more at Venezuelan drug boats that are coming by. So we're having these small, well, not well, now they're small, but they will soon copulate to possibly more, war interactions within Venezuela or with the Venezuelan government. There's going to be escalating tensions, possible military phase happening, a huge risk of regional instability, and aligning with the maximum pressure that Trump wants to try to do, but could isolate the United States. And, Russia, China do have their ties to Venezuela. So this is now another playground that Trump is going to be in. And we're going to see what happens with this. It's there. The talks all halted. Venezuela, Argentina, Gaza, Ukraine, Israel. His hands are full here. Even all the
Right,
issues
right.
on the
Deserves the
domestic
peace prize
schedule.
though.
Yeah,
Deserves the
deserves a
peace
peace prize.
prize.
So, yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can't even believe that's a talking point some people
Yeah, I
say.
can. I think anyone that says that I deserve a peace prize never deserves a peace prize.
Exactly,
Or anyone that
exactly.
says I'm deserving of something, you never
You
speak.
probably are deserving of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Exactly. You got to work for it.
You earn the thing. You earn things in life. You don't deserve anything.
Exactly, exactly,
That's I
exactly.
think that's a Dan Gable quote. It's like you don't deserve anything. You earn everything.
Yeah, just about. I mean,
Which I agree.
that's how
I
it should
agree.
be. That's how
Yeah.
it should be. And that wraps up another episode of Behind the Ballot. We do have some very good guests coming on soon. We got someone,
Hopefully, yeah.
yeah,
Hopefully.
hopefully being in contact with someone from the Forward Party, co-founded by Andrew Yang, former presidential candidate in I think 2020, I believe, 2020
2020. Yeah.
election. Yeah, in that election. So hopefully
It's
we'll
a
have a
shame he
representative.
lost the primary.
I know,
It's a
terrible.
shame.
But yeah, hopefully we're gonna have someone from there. I'm looking to have possibly a guest episode this Friday. So things are moving along, and as always, we appreciate everyone sharing, liking, and keep subscribing. I believe we should be having some hats sometime this week. I keep bothering my girlfriend about it, but but we shall see.
When they'll come in when they come
No,
in.
yeah, it's gonna be embroidered on there. It's gonna be nice. It's gonna be
Ooh,
real nice. Yeah, I think
yeah.
it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice. But
I'm excited to see them.
no, yeah, definitely. But until then, my Ballatiers, keep sharing, keep subscribing, and we will talk to you all Thursday.
Have a good night, everyone. God bless America. May peace be with you all. Goodbye.